Trucial States Affairs. Significantly, the treaties with the British were maritime in nature and the Trucial rulers were free to manage their internal affairs, although they often brought the British, and their naval firepower, to bear on their frequent disputes. This was particularly the case where disputes involved indebtedness to British and Indian nationals. During the late 19th and early 20th century, a number of changes occurred to the status of various emirates. For instance, emirates such as Rams and Zayat, now part of Ras Al Khaimah, were signatories to the original 1819 treaty but not recognized by the British as trucial states in their own right, while the Emirate of Fujairah, today one of the 7 emirates that comprise the United Arab Emirates, was not recognized as a trucial state until 1952. Kalba, recognized as a trucial state by the British in 1936, is today part of the Emirate of Sharjah. Until 1930s, the British refrained from interfering in the internal affairs of the trucial sheikdoms as long as the peace was kept, in contrast to their policy in Oman, where they were concerned on maintaining stability of Oman Sultanate and were eager to maintain their air base in Montserrat Island. According to a British official, they could fight each other as much as they liked by land, and we did not hesitate to recognize a ruler who had acquired power by murder. The construction of an airport at Sharjah and the grant of oil concessions to an oil company forced us to modify this policy to some extent. Discovery of oil. In the 1930s, the first oil company teams carried out preliminary surveys. An onshore concession was granted to Petroleum Development, Trucial Coast, in 1939, and an offshore concession to Darcy Exploration Ltd. in 1952. Exploration concessions were limited to British companies only following the conclusion of agreements with the Trucial Sheikhs and British government. Management of the Trucial Coast moved from the British government in Bombay to the Foreign Office in London in 1947, with Indian independence. The political resident in the Gulf headed the small team responsible for liaison with the Trucial Sheikhs and was based in Bushehr until 1946, when his office was moved to Bahrain. Day-to-day management of affairs was carried out by the native agent, a post established with the 1820 treaty and abolished in 1949. This agent was bolstered by a British political officer based in Sharjah, from 1937 onwards. Oil was discovered under an old pearling bed in the Persian Gulf, Sheikh, in 1958, and in the desert at Murban in 1960. The first cargo of crude was exported from Jebel Dana in the Emirate of Abu Dhabi in 1962. As oil revenues increased, the ruler of Abu Dhabi, Sheikh Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan, undertook a massive construction program, building schools, housing, hospitals, and roads. When Dubai's oil exports commenced in 1969, Sheikh Rashid bin Zayed Al Maktoum, the ruler of Dubai, was also able to use oil revenues to improve his people's quality of life. Barimi dispute. In 1952, a group of some 80 Saudi Arabian guards, 40 of whom were armed, led by the Saudi Emir of Ras Tanura, Turkey Abdullah Al-Otation, crossed Abu Dhabi territory and occupied Hamasa, one of 3 Omani villages in the oasis, claiming it as part of the eastern province of Saudi Arabia. The Sultan of Muscat and Imam of Oman gathered their forces to expel the Saudis but were persuaded by the British government to exercise restraint pending attempts to settle the dispute by arbitration. A British military build-up took place, leading to the implementation of a standstill agreement and the referral of the dispute to an international arbitration tribunal. In 1955, arbitration proceedings began in Geneva only to collapse when the British arbitrator, Sir Reeder Bullard, objected to Saudi Arabian attempts to influence the tribunal and withdrew. A few weeks later, the Saudi party was forcibly ejected from Hamasa by the Trucial Oman levies. The dispute was finally settled in 1974 by an agreement, known as the Treaty of Jeddah, between Sheikh Zayed, then President of the UAE, and King Faisal of Saudi Arabia. Independence and Union, 1960 to 1972. Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan was the first president of the United Arab Emirates and is recognized as the father of the nation. In the early 1960s, oil was discovered in Abu Dhabi, an event that led to quick unification calls made by UAE Sheikhams. Sheikh Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan became ruler of Abu Dhabi in 1966, and the British started losing their oil investments and contracts to U.S. oil companies. The British had earlier started a development office that helped in some small developments in the Emirates. The Sheikhs of the Emirates then decided to form a council to coordinate matters between them and took over the development office. They formed the Trucial States Council, and appointed Adi Bidr, Sheikh Rashid bin Zayed Al Maktoum's legal advisor, as Secretary General and legal advisor to the council. This council was terminated once the United Arab Emirates was formed. British withdrawal. By 1966, the British government had concluded that it could no longer afford to govern what is now the United Arab Emirates. Much deliberation took place in the British Parliament, with a number of MPs arguing that the Royal Navy would not be able to defend the Trucial Sheikhdoms. Denis Healey, who, at the time, was the UK Secretary of State for Defence, reported that the British armed forces were severely overextended, and in some respects, dangerously under-equipped to defend the Sheikhdoms. On January 16, 1968, British Prime Minister Harold Wilson announced the decision to end the treaty relationships with the 7 Trucial Sheikhdoms which had been, together with Bahrain and Qatar, under British protection. The British decision to withdraw was reaffirmed in March 1971 by Prime Minister Edward Heath. The region faced a host of serious local and regional problems. There were Iranian claims over Bahrain and other islands in the Gulf, territorial disputes between Qatar and Bahrain over Zubarah and the Hawar Islands, and the Barimi dispute was still unresolved between Saudi Arabia, Abu Dhabi, and Oman. On the issue of the Shah of Iran's intentions, there are conflicting views. Abdullah Amrantariam states that Iran was contemplating the occupation of Bahrain and other islands in the Gulf, while Alvandi Raham writes that the Shah had no intention of using force to resolve the Bahrain question and was seeking a package deal with Great Britain over the Tun Islands and Abu Musa, which was refused. The rulers of the Emirates believed that Britain's continued presence constituted a real guarantee of the region's safety, and some genuinely wanted Britain not to withdraw. With this in mind, days after the British announcement to withdraw, Sheikh Zayed tried to persuade them to honor the protection treaties by offering to pay in full the costs of keeping British armed forces in the Emirates. However, the British Labour government rebuffed the offer. Federation of 9 Emirates. After Labour MP Garon Y. Roberts informed Sheikh Zayed of the news of British withdrawal, the 9 Persian Gulf Sheikhdoms attempted to form a federation of Arab Emirates. The federation was first proposed in February 1968 when the rulers of Abu Dhabi and Dubai met in the desert location of Arghub al-Sidaira, and agreed on the principle of union. They announced their intention to form a coalition, extending an invitation to other Persian Gulf states to join. Later that month, in a summit meeting attended by the rulers of Bahrain, Qatar, and the Trucial Coast, the government of Qatar proposed the formation of a federation of Arab Emirates to be governed by a higher council composing of 9 rulers. This proposal was accepted, and a declaration of union was approved. There were, however, several disagreements between the rulers on matters such as the location of the capital, the drafting of the constitution, and the distribution of ministries. Further political issues surfaced as a result of Bahrain attempting to impose a leading role in the 9-state union, as well as the emergence of a number of differences between the rulers of the Trucial Coast, Bahrain, and Qatar, the latter two being in a long-running dispute over the Hawar Islands. While Dubai's ruler, Sheikh Rashid, had a strong connection to the Qatari ruling family, including the royal intermarriage of his daughter with the son of the Qatari emir, the relationship between Abu Dhabi and Dubai, also cemented by intermarriage, Rashid's wife was a member of Abu Dhabi's ruling family, was to endure the breakup of the talks with both Bahrain and Qatar. Overall, there were only 4 meetings between the 9 rulers. The last such meeting, which took place in Abu Dhabi, saw Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan elected as the first president of the federation. There were stalemates on numerous issues during the meeting, including the position of vice president, the defense of the federation, and whether a constitution was required. Shortly after the meeting, the political agent in Abu Dhabi revealed the British government's interests in the outcome of the session, prompting Qatar to withdraw from the federation apparently over what it perceived as foreign interference in internal affairs. The nine-emirate federation was consequently disbanded despite efforts by Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and Britain to reinvigorate discussions. Bahrain became independent in August 1971, and Qatar in September 1971.